Dudu, we here at the Verulam Magistrates Court for yet another case involving violence against a little girl. Like you mentioned, 7 years old in this instance, and this is now the second court appearance for that accused. He's 26 years old, and he will be expected to be applying for bail today. Now, the last time around, yes, there were protesters that had gathered outside the court. In fact, police had a hard time keeping them at bay. And this time around, they haven't arrived just yet, but police are prepared. The expectation is that they will be coming in their numbers. Talking about that last court appearance, they had actually blocked the street outside the courthouse protesting against bail. So the expectation is that they will come through. Now, Dudu, this is the second incident like this for this community. You'll remember that it wasn't long ago that we were at this court where there was the other rape case involving that little girl that was allegedly held captive by her stepfather, and that case will be returning to this court later this month. So the community is understandably outraged, and they are saying that they don't want bail for this accused.
Community rightfully so outraged, Dessen, but let's also talk about perhaps the environment. No doubt people fearful for the lives of their children. How has this impacted the way in which that community goes about their daily lives?
That's right, and I think the other thing here, Dudu, is that if you look at these cases, and if we're just talking specifically about Verulam, the suspects in these cases are people that are known to these victims. In this instance, and I'll just repeat something that some police sources were telling me a little while ago about this particular case. On the day of this attack, and this was in July last month, just over 2 weeks ago, and the little girl was laid to rest this Saturday that just passed. Police sources were saying that at the time, the allegation is that the suspect was at his residence, at a block of flats not far from here, and they live in the same block as the little girl and her mother as well. And she was playing with a group of friends, and the suspect had allegedly asked the little girl to buy him something from the tuck shop. And police are now saying to us, unofficially that is, that he then called the little girl into his home. But afterwards, there were witness statements that said that they saw the man taking the little girl's body and leaving it outside the flat, just basically discarding it. And that's very disturbing. And I think that also speaks to the fact that, you know, when we look at these cases and how the community is reacting, I think the outrage is also exacerbated by the fact that in the instances that we're talking about here, these are not strangers, these are people that are known to the community, which makes it even harder to police.
Disturbing indeed. Let's talk about authorities and their reaction to this news. Like you rightfully mentioned, this is not the first incident and the community on edge. How are they moving to sort of reassure residents that they're working at trying to root out the problem?
That's proving to be very difficult. You know, it's tough for police to manage community anger, especially under these circumstances. And that's also what happened on the day of this raid. It was where the police were there and they were trying to keep the community at bay. But the community then, in these instances, turns their anger against the police. So all they can really do is reassure them and say that they are working to find those that are responsible. But surely that's cold comfort when you have cases like this. There's also something that I must just mention to you, Dudu, that initially when this accused first appeared in court about 2 weeks ago, at that point he was just charged with murder. And it was only after that that the tests had come back. And the expectation is that today he should be formally charged with the rape of that 7-year-old girl.
Let's leave it there. Thank you very much for those details. My colleague Dessen outside.